Well, will he or won't he? Justice Dalveer Bhandari of India is locked in a straight contest with Britain's Christopher Greenwood to fill the 5th position up for election this year to the Hague-based International Court of Justice. Although Justice Bhandari has consistently polled better than the UK's candidate, it is not a done deal yet. But if you're wondering why the election is a big deal, well, hear out Syed Akbaruddin, India's permanent representative to the United Nations in New York. He says, and here we quote, "We see the election today at a tipping point. It is now no longer about an individual. It is also no longer about the representative or the nominee of a country. It is now about whether the outcome of the election to the World Court, the International Court of Justice, reflects the sentiment of the peoples of the world. The only gauge of that is the General Assembly of the United Nations." End quote. Akbaruddin does not stop there. He goes on to say, and again here I quote him, "We have a choice of either acknowledging the spirit of our times and ending this process honorably, or trying to stem the democratic drift of inclusivism. The choice we now have is about what shape do we want to give to the future direction of multilateralism, universalism, or emphasis on opposition by a few." End quote. To put it simply, it's us versus them. The UN General Assembly is rallying around India's Bhandari in his bid for re-election, defying the UN Security Council, where permanent members and their allies are putting up a fight to protect one of their own, the UK's Greenwood. Established in 1945, the ICJ's mandate is to settle, in accordance with international law, legal disputes submitted to it by states and to give advisory opinions on legal questions. The ICJ has a bench of 15 judges. 5 of the 15 judges are elected every 3 years. The last such election was held in 2014. Already 4 positions have been filled. Antonio Trinidade of Brazil, Ronnie Abraham of France, Nawaf Salam of Lebanon, and Abdul Kavi Amda Yusuf of Somalia. The judges get a 9-year term. Sitting Judge Bhandari had lost the Asia-Pacific seat to Lebanon's Nawaf Salam when the election was held on the 9th of November to elect 5 judges to the ICJ. 4 candidates who got the required majorities in both the UN Security Council and the UN General Assembly were declared elected. Bhandari and Greenwood could get majorities in only one of the chambers. Akbaruddin says momentum is on India's side. Bhandari last polled 121 votes in the UN General Assembly, 53 more than the UK's Greenwood. But Greenwood enjoys 9 out of the 15 votes in the UN Security Council. For now, the world waits with bated breath for the election result. And for more on this story, we are joined by our correspondent, our senior correspondent, Ramesh Ramachandran from the newsroom. Ramesh, good evening to you and thank you for joining us. So it seems that the UN Security Council, once again, I may say, it's somehow more powerful than the entire UN General Assembly when it comes to filling in position with people they believe are of their own, they belong to themselves.
Indeed, Daniele. Now, before I come to that, in less than 4 hours from now, Daniele, Syed Akbaruddin, India's envoy to the UN, will have separate meetings along with his British counterpart, with the chairman of the UN Security Council as well as the chairman of the UNGA to decide on the next course of action, because the deadlock has to be broken and the indications are that it will be decided one way or another later today. Now, that said, coming back to your original question, Daniel, it essentially boils down to the battle between the UN Security Council on the one hand and the UN General Assembly on the other. And the indications are that India, to be able to win the election, you have to have majorities in both chambers, in Security Council and the General Assembly. And in the last round of voting that took place on Monday last, Justice Dalveer Bhandari of India won majority support in the General Assembly, whereas Greenwood of the UK won majority support in the Security Council. So it's evenly balanced now. It could go any way, but we are waiting and watching as to what the eventual outcome might be.
So this opens a little bit our, let's say, field for talking about the UN Security Council and how much these UN bodies do actually reflect the balance in the world of today. Somehow, it seems, especially coming from India and especially thinking from the perspective of nations who did not traditionally have a foothold in these bodies like the UN Security Council, it seems that the UN Security Council does not want to open up to the new shifting balance in the world of today, isn't it?
Spot on, Daniel, and that's the crux of the issue at hand. Remember, by convention, all the 5 permanent members, the UK, the US, France, China and Russia, have had their representation in the ICJ. This year, we're seeing Christopher Greenwood of the UK contest in a straight contest with Justice Dalveer Bhandari of India, who's seeking re-election, by the way. The expectation among the Security Council members is that the UK should get a chance to be on the ICJ bench. That's where the difference arises. India says India's candidate, Justice Bhandari, enjoys majority support in the General Assembly, where he won at the last count more than 120 members in the 193-member General Assembly, and therefore the will of the Assembly should prevail over the will of the Security Council. So India maintains that Justice Bhandari has an equal chance of becoming elected or re-elected to the ICJ bench. It remains to be seen whether the convention will be broken later today.